And we welcome you to Carmichael Arena in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where tonight's college gymnastics features a quad meet. The hosts, North Carolina Tar Heels, welcoming in the Penn Quakers, Temple Owls, and Yale Bulldogs. 4 teams on one competition floor. Alongside the former NC State gymnast, judge, and coach Rachel Garland, my name is Matt Krause. And Rachel, March starts tomorrow, which means the postseason is closer than ever. And for all of these teams tonight, this is an important meet to improve the all-important NQS, isn't it?
It absolutely is. All of these teams are looking at boosting their rankings based on 3 of these teams looking at an away score, UNC looking at getting a bigger home score. And we can talk about the national qualifying score all day long, but that is what it's about in gymnastics. So all 4 teams coming off strong past weekends and looking for another best out here tonight.
Yeah, North Carolina with that NQS of 23 right now. It's a 195-970 for Dana Durante's Tar Heels. You want to be in the top 36 to have the opportunity to compete in the postseason. As for Penn, the Quakers, number 43 in the nation, 194-910. Their current NQS. Temple, 54th, 194-105. And Yale is 55th, 194.0. So for all of these 3 teams, this, as you said, Rachel, a road opportunity. That's very important in trying to boost the NQS, isn't it?
Absolutely. 3 of those scores that make up the NQS. So you take the top 6, get rid of the high one. 3 of them have to be road scores. So anytime these teams are on the road, that is what they are looking for, is how can we best that bottom score that we're counting right now.
So let's set the stage for our quad meet here tonight. North Carolina, as the home team, will rotate in Olympic order. That means the Tar Heels will begin on vaults, then go to bars, beam, and eventually floor. Temple will begin tonight on bars. Penn begins on beam, and Yale begins on floor. If you've never watched a quad meet, get ready. There's action non-stop on all 4 of the various apparati around the floor. It is a fun environment for college gymnastics when you get yourself a quad meet. It's Carolina's only home quad of the year.
Definitely lots of gymnastics to be on the lookout for. I'm excited to watch Yale on floor. They're 29th in the country on this event, and they've got some big tumbling and some really fun routines that we'll be on watch for.
It is by far their highest NQS. They're tops in their conference on floor. And Yale coming off a 49 flat on floor. They have scored 49 or better now in 4 consecutive meets on floor. As for the Tar Heels, similar story over on vaults. Carolina comes in 3 straight 49s or better for the Tar Heels on vault. You get a look at the competition beginning on floor, and that's where Yale gets things started there on floor. The first competitor of the night for the Bulldogs is Hannah Strauss. Strauss, a junior out of California.
Fantastic opening tumbling pass with that 2.5 into the punch front. A little bit loose on the landing. But starting off the meet, so far so good.
Meanwhile, Temple underway over on bars. Rista Hahn competing. Carolina on vault, Nev King. On the bottom right side of your screen, that's where you get to check out the beam. Marissa Lassiter, the first competitor up for the Penn Quakers.
Marissa in this leadoff spot has a double wolf turn, which is one of those really difficult. They make it look so simple, but a fantastic opportunity. Unfortunately, comes off on that back handspring layout step out. So good time to point out again, the top 6 competitors are who we're judging the score on. Only 5 of those are actually going to count, so they can't erase this score.
And Penn is coming off of a season high on beam, a 48.925 last week in what's called the Ivy Classic. The Ivy League does not officially sponsor gymnastics as a sport, but the 4 Ivy League schools that compete, Penn, Cornell, Brown, and Yale, 2 of whom are here tonight, competed last week in a quad meet at Cornell, and Penn was very, very successful. Highest team score, highest beam score, highest floor score of the year a week ago.
So a great routine finishing up for Penn on the beam. Unfortunately, Marissa did come off, so that's going to be one of those scores that they really want to erase, which puts the rest of the lineup in a little bit of a tough spot. So I'll be curious to watch the rest of that team and how they finish.
How do you handle that mentally, knowing that gymnastics is such an individual sport, but in the team scoring component of the college meets, you've got to be able to step up for your teammate?
You absolutely have to be able to step up for your teammates. And one thing that they practice in the gym and hopefully on the competition floor is just making sure that they don't focus on, let me just make my routine. You have all of your cues that you've got to constantly remind yourself that are going to lead to that making of the routine. Some people don't even watch their teammates as well, so you never know if they even know that their teammate fell until the score gets shown.
Were you someone who watched your teammates or no?
I did not compete beam,
okay.
So I watched all my teammates. But on other events, I did not. I would turn and I would visualize my routines and then turn around when it was just a couple minutes before my turn.
Our first score of the night is in. It's a 9.75 for Nev King in the leadoff spot on vault for Carolina. Julia Noer competed following her. Tar Heels on vaults a week ago, a 49-150. Season high for Carolina in this event is a 49-2. Set a couple of times on the road at Stanford and on the road at Pitt in ACC competition.
Julia's always got one of those huge vaults, and she nailed that landing, so it should be a big score coming in for her.
Bottom left corner of your screen on bars. That's where Temple posted their season high last time out, a 48.875 in a home meet against Bowling Green. Reese DeHaan with a 9.775 in leadoff.
So some really unique skills. You can see a little bit loose just in the body position overall. Legs coming apart, a little bit of give in the back. Not quite as solid, but a hit routine for Temple. So some execution errors along the way, but a made routine, and they're going to look to add that one to the team total.
That was Madison Durunda, who just competed. Pays Prejean on vault for Carolina.
Another big vault for those Carolina Tar Heels. Really working on the landings. That's going to be the biggest thing to help boost their rankings overall, is not giving away those tenths and half tenths when they take a step on the landing.
Meanwhile, on floor for Yale, Gigi Sabatini, top left corner of your screen, now full left side. Skylar Carrico competing on beam for Penn.
So Sky in a big position right now, really wanting to erase that score from Marissa. Getting set up for her acro series. A nice solid back handspring layout step out. Really focusing on both ends of the beam. A little wobble there on the punch front. Really difficult skill, but manages to stay on. Just really has the dismount left. And a fantastic 1.5 small hop on the landing, but that's what they needed.
Nice bounce back for Penn on beam after the initial struggle from Lassiter that scored as an 8-9.
Gigi finishing up her floor routine. Some excellent tumbling. That last tumbling pass with the immediate jump out really helps with those landings.
Lolly Decanoidza with a stick on vault for Carolina.
Love seeing all those landings that they are doing a fantastic job on. Only a 9.95 in terms of the start value, those Yurchenko fulls that we'll see over and over again. So that's the max that they can get if they stick it and it goes, 9.85 plus. That's a really good score.
A couple of scores in on bars for Temple. It was a 9.775 for DeHaan, then a 9.625 for Durunda. Getting set to compete on beam for Penn, Alicia Werlin, junior from Hillsborough, New Jersey.
Mariella finishing up her bar routine. Did not compete as a freshman. We'll actually see her 3 times tonight.
Temple under the direction of Hillary Steele, second-year head coach of the Owls. Was a 1-year Temple assistant prior to being elevated.
A very odd time in a quad meet where there's nobody competing.
feels like you look up sometimes and there's 4 different routines underway, but up on vault, Jojo Valahovic for Carolina.
And just a huge Yurchenko 1.5, which is a 10.0 start value. She did take that step on the landing, a little bit bigger than I probably would have liked, but better safe than sorry. A 10th, maybe a 10.5 on that step.
Valahovic, the 4-time reigning ACC newcomer of the week. She's been fantastic for Carolina in year 1 as a Tar Heel.
Absolutely. I love watching her. Her execution on the skills and just the way she performs her gymnastics is just so fun to watch.
It's a 9.825 for Dekanoidze before Valahovic. Werlin on beam for Penn, right side of your screen. Third floor routine for Yale underway on the left side of your screen. It's Megan Brook, the junior from Cincinnati. Floor, Yale's signature events, top 30 in the nation. Down on bars, Megan White prepares to compete for Temple.
Lots of strong gymnastics going on. Megan getting ready for her last tumbling pass. Great release combination on the uneven bars for Temple. Really clean lines, really strong handstand work. Nice toe handstand. Lost her back a little bit in that, but a really unique dismount with that pike toe front half twist. Legs came apart just a little bit, took a step on that landing. But again, really difficult dismount and not one of the double back, double layouts that we see a lot of times.
So waiting the score for White for Temple. Meanwhile, Kaya Forbes of Carolina competed on vaults. Wait to see her score come in. But the Tar Heels believe to have everybody above a 9.75. Again, a Carolina team that has scored 49 or better on vaults now in the last 3 meets. That included a 2-meet week last week for Carolina. Competed on the road against NC State last Friday. Then part of the Metroplex Challenge against Oklahoma down in Fort Worth on Sunday. So short week, quick turnaround for this Tar Heel team.
Very quick turnaround. Really difficult on the body. If you think about 3 competitions within a week's time frame, they've also got to allow for rest and travel and recuperation. So a lot of effort to be put on the all-arounders, particularly within this Tar Heel team. And just shy of that 49 mark, that 9.8 average is really what they're looking for. But some really strong vault scores for the Tar Heels to get started.
.9.5 for Carolina. You saw a 9.75 come in for Temple and Brick.
Ellie's got some big tumbling on floor here as well. She should start with a front double full. Excellent E tumbling pass. In gymnastics, all of the skills are rated from A to E, A being the easiest, E being the most difficult, and you actually get difficulty bonus for adding in D and E elements.
Hannah Weckler competing on bars for Temple, bottom of your screen. Jordan Barrow on beam for Penn, upper right.
So far, Hannah's looking really strong, really clean lines. Legs are glued together the entire time. Huge double back, and she nails that landing. So great job from Temple on bars, and we've got a front 1.5 to a front full on the floor for the tumbling pass. It's a 3/10 combination move.
So much going on at one time that Rachel doesn't even know what to look at.
It's hard when your eyes are bouncing all over the place. And some of the events go so quick. Vault, we barely see. So a great job from Ellie on floor. Yale really showing up as to where that 29th in the country is coming from.
Signature event for the Bulldogs. under the direction of Andrew Lease, fourth-year head coach and a UMass alum.
They'll finish up with a couple other very strong routines. Chloe does another one of those front double fulls, so another E-tumbling pass. Ella anchoring the Yale floor lineup, so just really fun routines.
Chloe DeJoy, the next competitor for Yale. White, by the way, on bars for Temple, a 9.825 as that score has come in now.
Looks like Sarah Stallings in the anchor spot for Temple on the uneven bars. Just a really solid anchor for this team. Nice pike Jaeger. We typically see that in a straddle position, so the pike does make it an extra layer of difficult.
All Eagle first team in this event last year.
Great handstand work, really holding those on top of the bar. A little short on that full pirouette, but right into the double back, and just the step on the landing. So solid bar rotation for Temple.
It'll be above a 48 for a 6th consecutive meet for the Owls. They've scored 48 or better on bars every meet since January the 31st. Mimi Fletcher on beam for Penn, upper right side of your screen.
Just saw a really difficult front aerial out of Mimi. Those forward skills, especially with no hands on beam, when it's 4 inches wide and 4 feet in the air, just makes it a little scary. And a nice stuck landing on that 1.5 dismount.
4 straight hit routines for Penn after Lassiter had her bobble starting things off. Chloe DeJoy for Yale. Sophomore from Mason, Ohio.
Chloe again starting off with this front double. Little off center on the end of that, but overall strong start. Got an exhibition on the uneven bars for Temple. This is one of their freshmen. Made a few mistakes so far, but giving her some experience is really what this position is all about. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not going to count towards the team routine or the team score overall, but gives her some experience. As some of those seniors graduate, they're going to need to fill those spots for next year.
And there's a huge difference mentally between the competition floor, even if it is an exhibition routine, and the practice gym.
Absolutely. They're still getting judged by the same judges that just scored all of their teammates. So you're still in the lineup. You still have to wait your turn. And that's why they do it in some of these meets where you're allowed to do exhibition. Sometimes you'll see 1 and 2 per event, and it's really just to give extra gymnasts, build the depth of your team, and give them some more practice.
Rachel, you said a solid bar routine for Temple. How about a season high 49.025? The Owls clear 49 on bars for the first time this year.
That's fantastic. Again, they're looking for that 9.8 average. So while they've got a couple 9.7s in there, their 9.8s are 9.8 pluses. So it really averages out. Temple had a fantastic bar routine and a bar lineup overall. It was really exciting to watch some of those routines.
A couple of beam scores for Penn have come in. The 9.725 for Jordan Barrow, and then Fletcher with a 9.85 following her. Here is Samantha Wu competing in the anchor spot.
Nice combination there, that front aerial to a beat jump or an onto shakad, depending on what you've called it throughout your gymnastics career. Beat jump is a little bit easier to pronounce. Solid back handspring layout step out. Really common acro series, but they do have to do 2 acro elements in a row. Excellent split jump into a sheep jump where she tosses her head back and actually loses sight of the balance beam. On those split jumps, looking for a 180-degree split.
Little hop forward on the dismount from Wu, but still should be a solid score here.
excellent finish for that beam lineup, being able to drop the 8.9 in the leadoff spot. So a solid routine going into it, and I believe it's got to be difficult starting on the beam.
So one more competitor on floor for Yale. Meeting in the anchor spot for the Bulldogs on floor. This is Ella Tashjian, sophomore from Manchester, Vermont.
Should be another good routine to watch. A lot of times you want the scores to build as the lineup goes on. So huge double pike. And just that step on the landing on floor, they are allowed to take that step. I think the easiest question to know is, from the judge's perspective, did they have to take the step or did they choose to take the step? If they have to take it, then that's when the deductions will come in place.
Putting yourself in your judge's hat, how do you decide that?
If they're off balance, depending on if they're going crooked, how big of a step it is as well is really a good way to tell. If they've got too much momentum and they have to stop it in some way, those are really key signs as far as if they'll fall if they won't take the step. So great double back at the end of the floor routine. So far, really clean execution. And a great finish for Ella on the floor.
Tashjian, the final competitor on floor for Yale. Penn's beam score has been finalized after a 9-8 from Wu. It's a 48-7 on beam for Penn, and Rachel, you said it is hard to begin your meet on beam. Well, Penn with the 48-7, that matches their second highest score of the season.
They had a phenomenal job coming back after that fall in the leadoff spot. And the nice thing now is these other events, you can kind of put this behind you. A lot of times when you go to beam in the middle of the meet or even in the final rotation, the other events are very high energy. You've got a lot of adrenaline going and you have to rein it in on beam. To start there, you almost get to stay calm, and then now you get to go have fun and really get that adrenaline going. So they're done. A great finish. And again, it's a really tough spot to be in when your first competitor falls.
Yet still, Penn with their second highest score of the year in that event. Temple has recorded their highest score of the year already in bars. Carolina with the 48.95 on vaults, and just awaiting the score from Tashjian, as Yale does have an exhibition routine here on the floor.
Again, a lot of these coaches that are exhibitioning gymnasts looking at potentials for next year. If there's a meet even later down where they can rest a gymnast, competing back-to-back for 13 weeks is really difficult on the body.
It is a 9-8 for Tashjian, a 48.525 on floor for Yale.
So huge double pike on that opening tumbling pass. Does step out of bounds. So the interesting thing in gymnastics, the line is inbounds, but as soon as you go over it, they will take an out of bounds deduction, which actually comes off the average of the score. Excellent leap combination, really hitting those 180-degree splits. Front full to a front layout for that last combination pass. She actually does a 3 tumbling pass routine, which I feel like is abnormal in gymnastics anymore. Most of them have switched to these 2 tumbling pass routines, but finishes with a big double tuck. Actually gets a 10th bonus for doing that double back at the end of the full routine. So outside of the step out of bounds, overall a really clean routine.
was Lauren Burt competing in the exhibition there for Yale. So all 4 teams clear 48 in the opening rotation, headlined by Temple's season best 49.025 on bars. And that wraps up our first rotation here tonight from Carmichael Arena. Quad meet action between North Carolina, Temple, Penn, and Yale tonight. As these 4 teams wrap up the month of February, they'll now rotate to rotation number 2. We'll come back momentarily and get you set for the second rotation of the night. One rotation complete, onward to rotation number 2 here tonight from Carmichael Arena. You see the scores. Temple's season best on bars, highlighting a quartet of 48s or higher to start off our quad meet tonight. Rachel, what stood out to you from the first rotation?
Yeah, Temple going 49 plus on the uneven bars. They had really clean lines just in how they swung overall, really difficult skills, and that makes for high score. So an excellent job done by Temple. UNC, it was really all in the landings. They had some really great execution, very clean in terms of the form on their vaults. But if every gymnast has a counting score and you're taking a 1/10 step, that's basically counting a fall overall. And so that's where they come in at that 48.95. So just really needs to clean up those landings. Penn, we touched on beam. Phenomenal comeback after that fall in the leadoff spot. And Yale was just so fun to watch on floor.
Yale's signature events on floor. Carolina, feels like Dana Durante has been talking all season long about the focus on landings on vault. And as you said, it comes up yet again here tonight. Carolina is on bars here in this second rotation. Yale is on vault. Penn on floor. And over on beam, the Temple Owls. First competitor on bars for the Tar Heels is Julian Noer.
I love watching this entire bar lineup. They've got some excellent performers. Julia, a huge full-in dismount. You can see she goes sky high above the bar. It's really hard with this particular angle, but from where we're at, she does an entire flip above that high bar.
Meanwhile, the first competitor on vault for Yale that you saw top right side of your screen was Hannah Strauss, who also led off on floor. Speaking of leading off on floor, Emma Davies competing for Penn, top left side of your screen, and Renee Shugman on beam, bottom right for Temple. Action all over the place.
Absolutely. Renee getting ready for her acro series, a very unique, it's supposed to be a front aerial, so she actually had a wobble in between. She's going to dance back, and as long as she connects this, she'll still get credit. Actually changes it to a front handspring front aerial. So again, really being able to think on her feet in terms of making sure she gets that acro series. If she doesn't do that, her start value will not be a 10.0 on the balance beam. So a great job thinking on her feet as we get some big tumbling going off on floor as well. Renee finishing up with a really solid routine, solid dismount, just a small hop.
Temple on beam, last meet against Bowling Green of 48.75. Their season high is a 49.2, January 31st at a quad meet hosted by Towson. Meanwhile, for Penn on floor, they're 49.125 last time out. That was their season high.
Nev King getting ready for the uneven bars. And again, you'll just see their legs are glued together throughout all of their routines. Great combination there. A little loose in her back, so lost some of the form. Some small deductions here and there. Great fight on that last handstand. And again, a huge double back, just ends up taking that hop on the landing.
Nowhere before Nev King, by the way, a season best, 9.875 for her.
And if that's your leadoff score and you want your scores to build, I'm going to go with that 9.875 is going to come in as a huge opportunity for this Tar Heel team.
Straws a 9.5 on vault to start for Yale. Tashjian a 9.65, and now Gigi Sabatini.
So another Yurchenko full, some execution on the landing. Really didn't have the block and the height, which means that she wasn't able to rotate that flip all the way around. Ended up having to step forward and sideways to gain some balance there. So really gonna have to focus on the block of the table. That's that push from their hands in order to generate some of the momentum to get that flip around.
From a national ranking standpoint, vault is Yale's weakest event. They are 59th in the nation there. 48.365, the NQS into competition for the Bulldogs here tonight. Their last vault score of 48.125 in that Ivy quad at Cornell last week.
So Mariella up on beam for this Temple team, getting ready for her acro series. You can always tell by the focus beforehand. So a large wobble there, but manages to stay on. So large wobble, a couple tenths, 2, sometimes up to 3 tenths on those. Better than the 5/10 fall. So they'll definitely take that.
Marissa Lassiter was the leadoff on beam, suffered a fall for Penn, now competing second on floor, top left side of your screen.
And she's just one that's really entertaining overall to watch. The floor music that this Penn team has chosen is all extremely fun and energetic.
You were energized by the floor music.
I
in
was.
warm-ups.
In warm-ups, it was great. It you know takes me back a little while. But always fun to hear some of those throwback songs as we watch Claire over on the uneven bars.
It's Claire Stipik, the Wisconsin native.
Again, execution really, really strong. Nails the handstands, perfectly straight arms. It's just those landings with the hops and the steps. So another strong Yurchenko full for the Yale vault team. We had another double pike on the floor exercise out of Marissa.
That was Lauren Burt competing on vault for Yale, who we saw compete in the exhibition on floor a couple of moments ago.
So it's super fun floor routine, high energy, lots of really good tumbling, excellent leap and jump combinations overall.
Scores that have come in on vault: a 9.625 for Sabatini, 9.75 for Priz following, 9.5 over on beam for Temple's Mariella Brick.
Comes in about right with that large wobble execution. Assuming they took 2 to 3 tenths on that, that would put her up in that 9-8 range. So pretty much what I would expect out of that. Other than that, her routine was extremely clean.
Now Megan White competing on beam for Temple, bottom right. Last vault for Yale.
So interesting vault, the front handspring front pike, not one that we typically see. Again, wasn't able to get that rotation around and had to end in a very squatted position. I couldn't tell if her bottom actually touched the mat or not. If it did, that would be a fall. This is Gwen Fink finishing up on the uneven bars. Again, another phenomenal routine out of this Tar Heel group. Just those landings are all we've got to hone in on.
It was a 9.875 for Stipik before Fink. The 9.875 career best for Stipik on bars. Alicia Werlin competing on floor for Penn, third competitor for the Quakers in this event.
Really unique tumbling passes here. She opens with a double tuck, but she's got a fantastic combination tumbling pass. I imagine whoever choreographed these floor routines had a lot of fun.
You can see the personality and excitement for the entire Penn team down there.
Excellent leap combination. So this is going to be a really long pass, a 1.5 through to a 1.5. And she was actually supposed to do a front tuck at the end of that, just lost some momentum. You could tell she went for it, but stopped herself before she fell. So that will be a deduction, but it won't be a fall deduction.
Isabel Schaefer, NCAA qualifier on bars last year, competing for the Tar Heels. Bottom of your screen. This should be fun.
Just a beautiful routine. Her legs never come apart unless they're actually supposed to. Her toe point is phenomenal. And she just puts her handstands exactly where she wants them. A graceful in and holds on to the landing. So that's going to be a big score out of Isabel. She's probably one of my favorite. Between her and Lally, it's a real toss-up in terms of who's my favorite to watch.
5th and 6th in the lineup for Carolina. Tar Heels on bar is always fun. Over on beam, this is Robin Dunn for Temple.
Excellent back handspring layout, step out. Super solid, no wobbles on the end of that one. So far, some good scores coming in.
Yale's vault score is finalized at 48.25 for the Bulldogs. Previous beam score for Temple was a 9.8 flat for Megan White.
Really solid routine so far for Robin. Again, they're hoping to be able to drop that 9.5 score out of Mariella. So handstand into the gainer full off the side, and it's a stuck landing. Then Lally getting ready to go on the uneven bars. This is a good one to just watch. There's not much to be said.
Career best 9.975.
She actually won this event last weekend against the #1 gymnast in the country. So always fun. Beautiful handstand. Really holds it on top. And holds on to the landing. An extra arm circle. Unfortunately, it is a deduction, but she was able to hold on to that stuck landing.
Still a big score coming for Lally.
It'll be
again.
a big score. The team wants a 10. I don't know that extra arm circle is going to get her the 10, but it may be another 9.9995. That was a great routine.
Had a 9.975 earlier this year against NC State. Back to floor we go. Skylar Carrico for Penn.
Penn really showing off their personalities. A nice 1.5 into a front layout. Great combination. On the floor routines, every gymnast has to do a 2 salto pass. So one of their tumbling passes, if they're not doing 3, even if they do 3, but it has to have 2 flips in it.
Back to the 2 box, right side of your screen. Temple back competing on the beam. Robin Dunn, by the way, who had that stuck landing in the previous routine there on beam, a 9.9 for the Owls. This is Madison Lee, freshman from Miami.
And Madison, typically a rock-solid beam worker, so that extra wobble on her acro series there, a little uncharacteristic for her. But a solid finish on the double back for Skylar on the floor. And a stuck landing for the Owls on beam.
National rankings-wise, beam is Temple's best event. They are 43rd in the country into competition this week. That's the only event in which they rank in the top 50 nationally, the NQS rankings.
And again, all of these teams looking to better that lowest score that they're currently counting so that they can continue to climb into those rankings. Temple really looking to make it into the postseason championships.
The score in for Decanoidza, it was a 9.95, so slightly off the season and career high, but still helps Carolina to a 49.4 on bars. A very solid routine for the Tar Heels, in fact, a season high.
That was a phenomenal bar routine. All of those routines were so clean, executed so well. And again, those little 10s, it all came in on the landings.
That's the same theme from vault that we were talking about.
It is
too.
the same theme for vault, and you train these. The coaches work with the gymnasts all the time on landings. There's so many drills that you can do, but when you get to that competition, you've got a little bit extra adrenaline. You've got some extra nerves that are coming into it. It's really hard to just make sure that you're controlling that all the way around.
How have you seen judging of landings and, for lack of a better term, strictness of enforcement of the rules change in recent years?
It has been, over the last 2 years, I would say, it's been a very big emphasis on those landings. So we used to call it the college stick, where you would land and immediately salute the judge. If you were off balance, you could really cover up an execution or a step on the landing in order to do that. So what the judges have done is they have come in and said, no, now you have to stay in your landing position for a solid second so that you don't get any execution. And they've really cracked down on that over the last couple of years.
Right side of your screen on beam for Temple, Brooke Donabedian. She was an NCAA qualifier on floor last year.
Excellent leap combination. Again, really looking for those 180-degree splits. It's a little harder to tell from the camera angle, but you can see the judges sit perfectly on the side. So they've got a great view just in terms of if they're hitting those 180 degrees. Another really solid combination. So looking to drop that 9.5. Nice side summy, holds on. Even more difficult to land sideways because your toes don't have anything to grip on the beam. So just the dismount left. Round off 1.5, maybe just a scooch of the feet. So again, really hard to tell from the angle, but she tried to slide those feet together. Solid routine out of the Temple beam team.
Mani Fofana competing on floor for Penn. We'll await the score for Donabedian, but the final scores are in on bars and vault so far in this second rotation.
So Penn going to be really looking to drop that 9.3 out of Alicia. Needs a few strong floor routines coming up. Great combination pass there, the 1.5 to the front layout. Adding some bonus along the way. I think one thing that if you're new to gymnastics, the routines actually don't start from a 10.0. They actually start from a 9.4, and they have to build up to the 10.0 start value by doing things in combination or doing difficult skills, those D&E elements that we talked about earlier. That double back at the end of the floor routine gives her a 10th in bonus to help her get to that 10.0 start value. So a strong finish out of Skylar, Manama, looking for 2 more hits in terms of scores on these floor routines.
Penn competing on floor here. Still one more competitor to go for the Quakers in this second rotation. It is Zara Gazdak. Gazdak, who has delivered the season high score on floor for Penn 3 separate times, a 9.875. Excited to watch her floor routine to finish this thing up for the Quakers.
A 9.875 would really give them the boost that they need for their floor lineup.
Again, Penn coming off with their season best on floor. The 49.125 last week was their third 49 or better this year. Penn has been 48 or better every single meet this year on floor. And it is their best event in terms of national rankings. So here is Zara Gazdak.
So the lone competitor right now. All the other events have finished. Excellent front through to a double back. A little bit crooked off of the diagonal, but popped right up and really took to that lunge. Tried to cover it up from the judges. So far, a really clean routine. Able to pull that double pike around, and again, she really pops her chest up to mask if it's lower on the landing. So a fantastic finish for the Penn floor team.
Should be able to drop that 9.35 from Werlin. Temple's final beam scores come in. It was a 9.85 for Donna Bedian. So a 48.975 for Temple. That is their second highest score of the season on beam, behind only the 49.2 from that Towson meet back on January the 31st. Temple at 98 flat as a team through 2 rotations.
And that's a great position for them to be in. That 196 is really the score that a lot of these teams strive for. You break it down, it's a 98 at the halfway point or a 49 on each event.
196 divided by 2, 98. I can do that in my head. Temple has not scored 196 this year.
Those are some of the easy numbers, but that 196, really to make it into the top 36 based on that national qualifying score, you've got to get your national qualifying score at that 196 or above, which means you need multiple meets at a 196 plus.
And if you're a longtime college sports fan that may be diving into gymnastics heavily for the first time, the beauty of gymnastics as a sport, the NCAA level, is that postseason selection is strictly based on numbers. There is no human opinion involved in there.
There is not, which there's probably some controversy around that as well. Gymnastics is also one of the only, it might actually be the only sport where it's not on the wins and losses, and you only get to count 6 of the meets that you compete in. You don't even get to average all of your scores.
And you don't even count your best one.
You don't count your best one. No, you just toss that one out like it doesn't exist. So it is a really unique numbers-based game in terms of how they come up with these. So it is really interesting to pay attention to. The gymnasts all know exactly what they're looking for, but again, the fact that you can't count your best score and you only get to count 6 of the 12 meets that you compete at makes for some interesting conversations.
Reagan Chang is preparing for an exhibition routine on floor for Penn as we await the score from Gazdak. To give you the final floor score for Penn, but here is Chang.
The team's really using these exhibition spots throughout the regular season, not something that's allowed at any conference championship or postseason. So front double full to start with. Again, a really difficult skill. She did have some execution on the landing of that. Wasn't quite prepared for it.
That score from Gazdak has come in, by the way. It's a 9.475, so a 48.250 for Penn on floor. That is a season low for the Quakers.
I actually thought some of her execution was better than that. I'm a little surprised by the 9.475, but the judges may have seen something, or there may have been a skill that she didn't get credit for, thus not starting from a 10.0. I didn't actually see the start value be flashed. So great front layout to a front full. And a strong finish on floor.
So the second rotation coming to a close here at Carmichael Arena, halfway through our quad meet tonight. North Carolina out in front in the team score department. Both the Tar Heels and Temple Owls tracking toward 196 territory as we proceed on to rotation number 3. The teams will rotate. We'll step aside. We'll come on back in a few minutes with the third rotation here in this quad meet tonight in Chapel Hill. Halfway home in our quad meet tonight, North Carolina, Penn, Temple, and Yale, our competitors at Carmichael Arena. Matt Krause with Rachel Garland. And Rachel, 2 rotations complete, 2 rotations to go. What'd you see in the second rotation that stood out to you?
UNC on bars was just so fun to watch. Their 49-4 score, I mean, that is top-notch across the country. So a phenomenal score by then. And then Temple on the balance beam. So they had a couple minor execution errors, but really pushing that 49 mark and averaging at 98 at the halfway point. So well on track to get to that 196 overall. Penn and Yale having really strong meets respectively. So I'm excited to watch what they can do and what they can finish up with.
North Carolina has scored 196 3 times this season. The season high for the Tar Heels, a 196.575 here in a home meet against Clemson back on February the 9th. And Carolina is tracking toward that territory again with a season-best 49-4 on bars. Tar Heels will be on beam next. Penn will be competing on vaults. Temple is on floor. Yale is over on bars for this third rotation. Carolina on beam. We'll talk about it when the Tar Heels begin to compete, but it was an adventurous up and down week for Carolina in this event last week. We get things started on floor, though, with the Temple Owls. Mariella Brick competing.
That's a great way to put it for UNC, so we can definitely chat about that. And their head coach, Hillary, on floor for Temple said, we're going to see a different lineup for them. So they've been playing around with some things, new faces to the team, and Mariella getting it started.
Head coach at Temple, Hillary Steele. If you're a longtime college gymnastics fan, you remember her as Hillary Morrow, her maiden name. 2011 SEC vault champion at Georgia, 2-time member of the team national champions.
So an unfortunate fall there in the leadoff spot, but again, it may not hurt the overall team score.
Bottom right side of your screen, Jess Narano, the sophomore competing on beam for Carolina. The Tar Heels had to count 2 falls on beam last Friday night at Reynolds Coliseum against NC State, but then came back strong Sunday in Fort Worth. Carolina on beam, a 48.85 in that meet against Oklahoma. And Dana Durante, we were chatting with her briefly prior to the meet tonight, and she said their team was great on beam, was able to turn the page quickly to Sunday's competition.
They really did, and the beam team against NC State was really a fluke. It was unfortunate that it all happened back-to-back, but you know what? Maybe now they've gotten all their falls out of them for the rest of the season, so I'm glad to see that they were able to come back against Oklahoma, because that is a really difficult team to compete against.
Morano and Brick wrapping up their respective routines. First score in comes from vault, where Marissa Lassiter earns a 9.75 for Penn.
Marissa been a staple in these lineups for Penn, one of their all-arounders.
Competing early in lineups too. Olivia Van Horn next on vault, top right of your screen.
So a huge handspring front pike. I imagine she may be working a front pike half, which would be a 10.0 start value. Lots of power and amplitude, just couldn't really control that landing, had to take a couple of steps.
Down on bars, Lauren Liu competing for Yale. Temple on floor, a 48.725 last time out against Bowling Green. Their season best is a 48.9. That came in a home 5-team meet back on February 2nd. Here's Liu after a 9.7 from Holtz.
So great double layout dismount to finish up. Just that hop on the landing. Again, we've talked about those landings, but that's the difference between the top 10 teams and then the top 30 teams overall, or really those landings. 5/10 on each event is going to add up to quite a bit.
It's a half a point by the time it's all the way over. It was a 9-7 for Van Horn. Here's JoJo Valahovic, 4-time reigning ACC Newcomer of the Week.
And this one, similar to some of those bar routines we watched, she is just so gorgeous on beam. Execution, amplitude, straight legs, pointed toes. So big vault up in the top right of your screen. JoJo with a fantastic leap combination on the bottom right. She's so calm and so steady. She really just puts the skills exactly where she wants them to be. And coming in, competing as a freshman, you would think she's a veteran. So a small hop on that landing. She really tried to fight for it. That's what would have been a college stick. Instead of having to hold it, she would have turned and saluted.
Ellie Kearns on bars for Yale, bottom left side. Now right side of your screen.
So fantastic full pirouette into a double back dismount and just the tiniest little scooch of her feet, finishing up that bar routine. And same with the floor exercise, so a strong finish there.
Fofana on vault for Penn after Rengifo finished up on the floor for Temple.
So really strong Yurchenko full. Look almost like she hopped in place from the angle that we've got. Prior to that, Alicia with that 9.725, her first time on this event since her freshman year. So an excellent job out of her.
Penn on vault last time, a 48.725 last week in the Ivy Quad. Their season best of 48.9 in this event. Yale, meanwhile, on bars, coming off a season high 48.7 last time out last Sunday. And a 9.85 for Fofana.
This Yale bar team, one thing that they talked about ahead of time is just the steady improvement throughout this season. They had a season high last week and they continue to improve overall. So great release combination there. You see that one pretty often. Right back up to the high bar to get ready for her dismount. Just the tiniest little hop there. And again, the smallest of hops on the vault as well for Skylar Carrico.
Couple of beam scores, 9.825 for Naranjo and Valahovic. Now Nev King, the sophomore, competing for the Tar Heels, bottom right.
Just the tiniest little execution on that back handspring layout step out. Floor, this is Reese DeHaan coming back and battling some injuries. She's always been in on bars, but super excited to be able to be in the floor lineup.
Junior out of Bradenton, Florida.
Nev finishing up on the balance beam, really just getting set for her dismount. So strong 1.5, just again, a tiny scooch of the feet, but overall a solid start for the Carolina beam team.
Updating scores was a 9.8 for Carrico on vault. Waiting the Jordan Barrow score to determine Penn's final vault score for the night. Couple of 9.775s over on bars for Yale. Now Chloe DeJoy over there for the Bulldogs.
So great double back finish for Reese on the floor exercise. And coming back from some of the ankle and Achilles injuries she's had, the floor is a tough one to do.
Bit of a lull between competitors. Next up on beam for Carolina will be Julia Noer. Joy bottom left. Exhibition on vault top right.
DeJoy unfortunately comes off the bar. She actually had a really big piked Jaeger. It was a little too close to the uneven bar. She caught it, but almost in a dead hang and wasn't able to really do anything out of it. So ends up coming off an unfortunate fall. They've had 4 really strong bar scores so far, all in the 9-7 range.
But with the 4 strong scores before DeJoy, gives you this cushion here.
It does give you a little cushion, a fantastic double layout, and actually nails the landing. So it would have been a very strong score overall, but again, unfortunately just didn't have the rotation on her release move, caught in almost that dead hang, and had to unfortunately come off.
An important mental concept in all sports, but especially in gymnastics, is the short memory, turn the page. Well, after Penn posted a season low on floor, the Quakers with a season best, 48.975 on vault.
They've done some excellent vaults, even with their exhibition. So again, you see them in those like high 9.7, 9.8 ranges, and that's exactly what they're looking for. If they can keep that momentum going for the rest of the season, they'll be in a good spot. And now this floor routine should be one to just sit back and watch, one that actually went viral not long ago.
Kirsten Johnson competing for Temple, top left of your screen.
Julia Noer on the top right for UNC on the balance beam as well. Strong double tuck on the floor exercise as Julia finishes up. Excellent 1.5. Again, just another hop on the landing. So overall, the UNC beam team, their execution is on point. They are getting very, very little deductions throughout the routines. It's just those landings at the end.
There's a 9.8 for Nev King before Noer.
Kirsten dancing into the corner for her last tumbling pass. They always say you can show off your personality on floor. I think she takes it to a new level, and she does a great job at performing. It's a stage for her.
As seen on TikTok, Kirsten Johnson with plenty of high fives from her teammates after another solid floor routine. Will await the score there. Gwen Fink preparing to compete on beam for the Tar Heels, the 5th competitor there. That'll be on the left side of your screen. Bars on the right side. Lilia Coyne, sophomore from the Woodlands, Texas. Same hometown as Nev and Ellie King of North Carolina. She'll compete on bars here for Yale. The Noer score before Fink, a 9.85 for Carolina. That is a season high for the Louisiana native Julia Noer.
She had a great lead off, the 3 before her coming in extremely strong. It builds upon itself, and you just feel the confidence all around. Gwen doing a fantastic job, really focused throughout her skills. Triple series, which is even more difficult, extra time to be able to come off the beam, and nails that one.
Renee Shugman, top left on floor for Temple. More than just personality for Kirsten Johnson, and 9.8 for the Owls.
An unfortunate fall on that bar dismount for Yale, but I imagine Kirsten's routine is a little more difficult to go after with all the excitement. And Gwen finishes up her beam routine, a really strong performance there.
So Yale will have to count a fall on bars. That'll drag the score down a little bit after 4 really solid routines to start off the rotation for the Bulldogs.
Definitely unfortunate. Lily had a great routine going on. She just couldn't pull that rotation around on the double back and ended up putting her hands down at the end of the routine. Maybe just ran out of gas a little bit. Renee finishing up her floor routine with a huge double pike, really solid on the landing. Temple still putting up some really strong scores as well overall.
And still with Brooke Donabedian to go, an NCAA qualifier last year on floor. She will be the anchor for the Owls. Fink a 9-9 on beam, and this dream rotation continues for Carolina.
Very well deserved. That routine was gorgeous in terms of execution, and again, it's just those little landings.
For Fink, that is a career high. Reagan McBride now.
And a phenomenal spot for Reagan to be in, especially as a freshman. You've already got a 49-2 as your overall team score, so just have fun. If you improve it, fantastic. Really unique acro series there. She actually looked like she was a little crooked, but able to hold on. Didn't even have an execution error wobble. Big front toss, solid as can be. Perfectly straight, really looking at the end of the beam to make sure that her center of balance and center of gravity stays still. And then an aerial into a 1.5 with just that small step on the landing.
Should be another great score for Carolina on beam. And the Tar Heels set to go above 49 for the rotation. It was a 9-1 for a coin over on bars for Yale. So the final score in for this rotation for the Bulldogs, and it is a 48.075 for Yale on bars.
So Yale, again, unfortunate that they've got to count one of those falls. Comes in at a 9-1 from Lily that they'll be counting, but Temple on floor as well. They'll have to count the 9.25 from Reese. Even though we've had some really strong routines and some really strong scores, you definitely need 5 out of 6. Ends with a handspring front double full. Really difficult to pull that off at the end of the floor routine.
First team All-Eagle in this event a year ago.
So gorgeous finish out of Brooke. It's not going to be enough to get up to that 49 mark, but a really strong floor lineup overall for Temple.
We'll await the score for Donabedian to determine the final floor score for Temple. Also awaiting the score for McBride on beam, but Carolina will score at least a 49-2 after a 49-4 on bars for the Tar Heels. Carolina's season high on beam of 49.35. That was at Pitt a couple of Fridays ago. Exhibition on beam for Carolina.
Reagan's score comes in. It goes up a little bit, a 9.85, so they get to drop one of the 9.825s.
$49,250 on beam for Carolina. Matches their second highest total of the year with their Alabama dual meet that started out the season back on January the 10th. But a Tar Heel team that is top 20 in the nation on beam with another strong performance and another very solid step forward after what you called, Rachel, a fluke last Friday.
Absolutely. It was something that I wish I hadn't had to see.
48.475 on floor for Temple.
They say sticks are contagious. Unfortunately, falls can also be contagious, and that's really what seemed to happen.
Really solid exhibition there for Taylor Schultz as well.
Great opportunity. She's got a long way to go to get into that beam lineup, but again, if you need to rest an athlete at any point, that's going to be a solid score to be able to put in.
A couple more meets in the regular season for the Tar Heels after tonight. Carolina will compete at the Elevate the Stage event in Huntsville, Alabama next weekend. Alabama, Cal, Michigan State, good field, 5 o'clock next Sunday, ACC Network. Western Michigan here at Carmichael Arena March 14th for the final home meets of the year. Floor exhibition here for Temple.
So just the final tumbling pass. 1.5 into a front pike. Little off center, off the diagonal on that one. But a cleanly executed routine.
Amelia Budd, a North Carolina native from Charlotte. Wrapping up competition on floor with this exhibition. So the headliners of the third rotation, Penn's season-high vault score of 48.975, and North Carolina clears 49 again with a 49.250 on beam. That has Carolina in position still to score another 196 here tonight. Still one rotation to go though. Tar Heels headed to the floor, as the fourth rotation will come your way when we come back to Carmichael Arena in a moment. Three rotations down, one rotation to go. Alongside Rachel Garland, I'm Matt Krause. Thanks so much for being with us. And Rachel, North Carolina with a 49 on floor can score their highest total of the season. Meanwhile, Penn with a really solid third rotation. Temple trying to close strong on vaults, and Yale will wrap things up on beam. What are you looking forward to here in the fourth?
I'm definitely looking forward to watching Carolina's floor routines. That 49, it should be fairly easy for them, but I don't want to jinx anything. We had a couple mistakes, and we've had some teams that have had to count falls, so it's not over until it's over for the Tar Heel team. And again, looking at Temple to come back really strong on vault. I've been watching them in their touch, and they look really good. Unfortunate on floor that they ended up having to count one of those mistakes. Not normal for that team, but really excited there, and super excited to see Penn wrapping up on bars after a really strong vault.
So Carolina's season high score that we referenced, it's a 196.575. They did that here at home in their most recent home meet that came February the 9th against Clemson. And again, the Tar Heels with a 49 on floor would exceed that. Carolina getting things going with Jessica Naranjo, the sophomore. Yale is on beam, Penn on bars, Temple on vaults. Temple on vault last time out, a 48.775 at home against Bowling Green. Their season high, a 48.875, and Amelia Budd gets things started.
Really strong Yurchenko full on that lead-up spot, just the hop on the landing, which again has been a common theme tonight on the vault, on all landings really. We haven't seen too many sticks overall. But Temple looking to put out some really big numbers on vault as they wrap up their meet.
Naranjo on floor, top left. Gigi Sabatini on beam for Yale, bottom right.
Gigi unfortunately came off on that tumbling series. So again, not the way that they're looking at starting their beam rotation after having to count a fall on the uneven bars. But the rest of the lineup can pick her up. Great double pike out of Jess on the floor exercise. This Carolina team has some really big tumbling.
The floor rotation for a home team is always fun because you get the folks that have been here all season. They start to get to know the routines and clap along. The energy really ticks up in the building.
Absolutely. It's a fun one to end on. You get to just, any extra effort, any extra energy that you have, you can put it out there on the floor. and really focus. So always the fun one to end on, which is why the home team gets to do it. So a phenomenal leadoff for Jess on the Tar Heel team. And again, well on their way to that 49 mark.
Saw a really nice vault top right from Nikki Rengifo of Temple there.
Yeah, phenomenal vault. You can see the team was excited about that one. Great execution in the air, really dynamic, which is one thing those judges are looking for.
Evangeline Chu, the competitor on beam here for Yale. First time that we've seen Chu in competitive action tonight.
Really difficult spot to go in, especially when beam is your last event, because she warmed up 2 hours ago, sat through the march-in, sat through all the other events, and then had to split a 4-minute touch with 6 other competitors before it's her turn on the balance beam. So really trying to pick up from Gigi's fall at that 9:05. A wobble in between this leap connection, but adds a jump at the end to make sure that she gets some bonus tenths for that.
Competition underway on bars. Marissa Lassiter, the all-arounder, leading things off for Penn.
Again, in that leadoff spot or early on in the lineup on all 4 events, just so much faith put in her from her coaches overall to really set the tone for the team. An excellent flight series on the balance beam. Typically you see the flight series a little earlier on, but chose to wait.
Claire Stipik on floor after the 9.85 from Naranjo.
So again, looking for some really big tumbling and some really clean landings. A great double pike, just that step. Slides her front foot a little bit, which may result in just a small half-tenth deduction from the judges. You want to really keep that front foot planted. Lay out your Chenko full, which is one of the more common vaults that we've seen. A small step to the side. Could have used a little bit more rotation on that one. Claire with the double back. Almost didn't need to take that step. So just the final tumbling pass left. Again, a little bit harder on these 3 tumbling pass routines in terms of endurance. So a nice 1.5 to front layout. A little off balance at the end, but overall a phenomenal routine. That's 2 for 2 for the Tar Heels.
Carolina just needing that 49 on floor for a season high score. Scores pouring in on vault for Temple. Everybody above a 9.7. Here is Shugman, the 5th competitor on vault.
Another Yurchenko full out of Shugman, and again, those 9.7 pluses, so really strong Temple vault rotation.
Temple team that just barely missed a 49 last time out with the 48.775 against Bowling Green was their highest team score of the year at 195.125. And Temple did have a little bit of a step back on the floor, but trying to close strong on vault tonight.
This is Mimi Fletcher on the uneven bars. Actually her first time on bars competing. Looking for a strong ending with that full in and just the hop. So great time for your first time out. Looks like another strong score for Temple on vault, another 9.75. And here's their 10.0 start value. Unfortunately, just couldn't pull it around. Kirsten, the only one with that 10.0, ends up sitting down on the rotation.
And that gets scored as a fall, correct?
It is, yep, it is a fall. So just, again, almost going for the stick a little bit too hard. She's got such a dynamic vault, and she twists so quickly in the warm-up and the touch. She did a fantastic couple of opportunities out Just couldn't quite translate it to the one that actually counts.
So that'll be the score that gets dropped for Temple, presumably a 48.85 for the Owls on vault. A slight tick up from the 48.775 last time out. JoJo Valahovic on floor.
Huge full in to open with. Just has so much fun within this floor routine with really big tumbling and really high jumps and leaps. There's a reason she's been the 4-time Specialist of the Week. Huge double back. And I'm not sure if one of the judges put their arms up. I'm guessing so because there is a judge right in that corner where her foot stepped out of bounds.
Jordan Barrow on bars for Penn, also competing on your screen right now.
Great full pirouette into a double tuck dismount. So Penn starting off their bars rotation extremely strong.
We have our first final score of the night in. That is for Temple after their 48.85 on vault. It is a 195.325 tonight for the Owls. That is a season high by a whole 0.2 over the 195.125 they scored last time out. All in all, a productive and positive night for Hillary Steele's team.
Absolutely, and I almost wish that they didn't have to count that mishap on the floor exercise. They would have had another 5 10s onto that score and just really blown it away. But then you get into that scenario of it's high, but then you don't get to count it.
So Temple with a season-high team score. You're looking at the beam. Ella Tashjian preparing to compete for Yale. Sophia Paris down on bars for Penn.
Really long lines, really great execution. She's one of the taller gymnasts that you see, which really plays well into those handstands. You can just see how long that line is. A little short on that handstand, but a great stalder into the double back dismount and just nails the landing. She's another one that does one of those flips completely above the high bar.
Saw that from Julia Noer of Carolina earlier on in our meet tonight. A very solid routine there for Paris. Hannah Strauss over on beam for Yale after Tashjian's 9.75.
Hannah's been solid all year for this beam team. And Kaya on floor. This opening tumbling pass is huge.
If you like big gymnastics, Kaya Forbes is the competitor for you.
She is able to get so much air on these tumbling passes. Huge full in, doesn't even grab her legs to get that around with that rotation. Back-to-back tumbling passes, so a lovely front layout, front full. Very unique dismount on the balance beam there. Back handspring into the twisting dismount with just that step on the landing as Kaya gets set for her final tumbling pass. And a huge double back, doesn't even take the step that she's allowed, just nails the landing. Along with the bar routine, double back dismount with a stuck landing.
Big score incoming for Forbes.
And they're gonna need that again. They're looking for that 49 mark. A little bit lower on some of those last couple scores with Claire coming in at that 9.625 and then JoJo, unfortunately, that step out of bounds dropped her from a 9.85 to a 9.75. So really looking for Kaya, Julia, and Bella to get some of those big scores in.
over to beam. Yale trying to make sure that they don't have to count the 9.05 from Sabatini. Awaiting the score from Straws. Haley Kriz, first-year competitor out of Massachusetts, waiting to compete for Yale.
She's also been big in this beam lineup. Just overall, we've got a quick judges conference. So when the judges are out of range in terms of their scores, they need to come together and make sure that they were just judging everything properly, wrote down the actual routine correctly to make sure they gave the right amount of bonus and had the correct start value. So while we wait for beam, we get to watch another floor routine. This is also a super fun one. She is so energetic with really big tumbling, and you can tell she just loves performing. Another huge full in and stays in bounds. That's a veteran move. She was almost on that line. She could have taken the step, knew that she didn't actually need it, and stayed in bounds. Nice turgite full. On the bottom of your screen there for Penn on the bar. Skylar unfortunately came off on a toe handstand. Didn't quite make it over the bar. And a phenomenal finish for Julia Noer on the floor exercise. That should be another really big score coming in for the Tar Heels.
Forbes before Noer scored a 9.825. The big score that we thought could be coming.
Still waiting on the beam score. Always a tough spot to be in, especially when it's taken this long to actually get to it. Back over to the uneven bars. Had to repeat the skill in order to get the release combination. Other than that, this has been a really clean bar routine. Legs glued together, really hitting those handstands. Definitely unfortunate that she came off early on in the routine. But a huge full in and just takes that step on the landing.
What kind of deduction are we looking at because she had to restart there? Pretty serious, right?
Yeah, it'll be a 5/10 for the overall routine. But the hard part is because she stopped at the beginning of her routine, she's actually got to repeat it in order to get some of that bonus, which mentally and from an endurance standpoint is just really hard to do. So she did a great job, had that step on the landing. Overall, it should be a big score that Skylar can get, just not on this particular routine, but a 49 plus on bars for the Penn bar routine, or bar team.
Yeah, 49.05, that is the second highest total of the year for Penn, behind only 49.075 that they scored at Temple February the 8th.
So just narrowly misses that against one of their same competitors.
How about that? Bella Miller, yet another enthusiastic performer on floor. This is her only event. She is the final competitor of the night for the Tar Heels, and Carmichael Arena will come to life during Miller's floor exercise.
And again, what a spot to be in. You've got to sit all meet long for the last couple of hours in order to perform in the final spot. But this is a fun one to watch. So an excellent opening tumbling pass, that front through to a double back. Great leap combination. Again, all required things that they have to have in these routines. Super fun so far. Pushing that 49 mark right now, coming in at that 48.9, but really hoping to drop that 9.625. And she did it. I'm going to call it. She did it on that one.
Rachel declares it.
I declare it, yes. If they don't go 49 on the floor, then I may have to turn in the microphone.
Chris finally competing on beam for Yale, right side of your screen, as Miller caps off the floor.
The team can hardly hold back from the salute, really anxious to get out there and celebrate. That is going to be a big score for Bella on the floor exercise. Haley Kriz on the balance beam for this Yale team. Again, she's been a staple in this lineup, so after that delay, you definitely want somebody that's solid that can come up and put up a big number. And Haley's just the person for the job. Only has her dismount left. An excellent round off 1.5 and sticks the landing.
One competitor to go for the entire meet. Awaiting that score still for Miller on floor. See if the Tar Heels can reach that 49.
So a couple of exhibitions coming up.
Starting to tabulate our individual event winners. We'll get those to you before we get off the air tonight.
Bella Miller comes in with the 9.8, puts them just over that 49 mark, a 49.075 for the Tar Heel floor team.
And a 196.675 for North Carolina. That is the season high score for the Tar Heels by a 10th over the previous best.
It's the blessing and the curse. So now they get to get rid of this score in terms of their national qualifying score, but that prior 196.575 that they were dropping is really going to bump them up.
A Carolina team that came in number 23 in the NQS. 3 weeks to go, plus conference championships.
Exhibition on balance beam. Unfortunately comes off on their acro series. This is Manama Fofana on beam. Really just looks a little bit nervous out there. Got her jump combination, but had an execution, had a break between the actual leap and the jump that she was supposed to originally do. But just the dismount left. A stuck landing, so a great way to put an exclamation point on it. Unfortunately came off on that acro series, but some good experience overall within the beam team.
So waiting that final score for Yale on beam. We can tell you some other individual event winners tonight. We have a three-way tie for the vault winner. A couple of Penn athletes tying for the 9.85 in Barrow and Fofana, as well as Rengifo from Temple. So a three-way tie as Nikki Rengifo's 9.85 for Temple in this final rotation helps tie her for the event win tonight. Again, tying with a couple of different competitors for Penn, as Penn's Jordan Barrow and Mani Fofana both tying with the 9.85. On bars, 9.95, Lali Dekanoidze is your event winner tonight. We have a tie on beam, 9.9 for Carolina's Gwen Fink and Temple's Robin Dunn. On floor, a tie at 9.85. Julia Noer and Jessica Naranjo, both of Carolina, both in that final rotation there. And it's Noer with a 39.325 in the all-around, who takes individual high there. So Carolina wins or ties for the individual win in 3 of the 4 events. Temple grabs 2, Penn with 1 there, with 2 separate athletes there on vaults. Those are your individual results throughout tonight's competition. Just one more score to come in is Kearns on the beam for Yale. Exhibition routine forthcoming for the Bulldogs on beam. But final score for the Tar Heels, the season best, 196.675. Temple also with a season high tonight, 195.325. Penn, 194.975. And that final score on beam for Yale is a 48-1. So that means Yale's final score a 193.05 tonight. As we take a look at this exhibition on beam for the Bulldogs, so Rachel, the meet coming to a close tonight. Tar Heels with a fantastic night at home. Temple with some really solid performances as well, and certainly some big highs throughout the night for both Penn and Yale.
They've all done a really great job in terms of coming out and doing what they're supposed to do. The coaches know exactly what they've been practicing in the gym, and so some of it just leads up to, can we put it on at the competition floor? For Temple, again, they had to count 1 fall. It's definitely unfortunate, but overall a really strong meet for them. And then again, going back and working on those landings. Carolina nailed a couple of the routines, but where they're going to be able to improve and get to that 197 mark, which is going to be on the horizon for them, is those landings and really making sure that they're not taking those half and full 10th steps overall. Yale and Penn, again, some really big gymnastics overall, some really clean gymnastics, just a few too many nerves, a few too many execution errors overall.
Big stage coming up for the Tar Heels. The Elevate the Stage event in Huntsville, Alabama, Rocket City. That's next Sunday, March 9th, 5 o'clock Eastern. Carolina, Alabama, Cal, and Michigan State on ACC Network. Then the Tar Heels back here in Carmichael Arena March 14th against Western Michigan. Temple still has 3 really solid meets coming up. They host Maryland's coming up this week in their home finale. Penn will compete on the road against Towson in a quad meet in their next action. Yale's next action also at home against Maryland. That's a different meet on March the 9th. So there's your final look at scores tonight. A season best, 196.675 for North Carolina. Tar Heels have individual winners in 3 of the 4 events, plus the all-around. Temple also a season high, and a couple of individual event winners for the Owls as well. Rachel, any final thoughts from this one tonight?
All these teams really, again, looking towards that postseason. They're not ready to peak just yet, but this was a good indicator as far as what are those little details that we need to go back and work on. We've only got about a month left of this season, and so that's when they're really going to be looking at getting some of the top scores.
Season highs for the Tar Heels and the Owls tonight in this quad meet at Carmichael Arena. For my broadcast partner, Rachel Garland, I'm Matt Krause saying thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your weekend, and farewell from Chapel Hill.